Hello guys, we are going to talk about a comedy film called Bully from 2018. A lot of interesting things are waiting for you. Three bald boys are walking around the school looking for their next victim. Their peers avoid them by looking down and trying to stay away from them. The main bully, Miles, knocks the books out of the hands of a red-headed fat boy, but the latter does not look down. Miles laughs at him. The red-headed boy is supported by his friends, Andy and Bobby, but this does not help him much. Upset, Jimmy walks the streets, and when he gets home, he starts eating cookies to relieve his stress. His mother asks him if he's okay, but although the tone of his voice betrays the truth, he doesn't admit to anything. Over a video call, his friends try to cheer Jimmy up again, emphasizing his good qualities that bullies don't have, a sense of humor and intelligence. But the guy is only focused on the fact that he is fat. He is invited to visit, but he refuses and stays at home. It's easier for him to lock himself away, hide, and watch old kung fu movies just to distract himself. In the evening, Jimmy has dinner with his father, who works the night shift and rarely sees his son except at the dinner table. The father asks about his progress in love, but the insecure teenager believes that no one can like him. The father tries to encourage his son, but to no avail. Jimmy becomes even more anxious about his failures and again eats sweets to numb his anxiety. The next day, the three friends meet on their way to school. While they are joking around carefree, they are ambushed by familiar bullies. Bobby immediately runs away, and Andy is pushed away to leave Jimmy alone. They threaten him and start demanding money. However, for now, they limit themselves to threats and let Jimmy go to think about how to pay them back. In the classroom, Miles is already bullying Bobby, hinting at his difference from the other boys. At recess, Jimmy calms his friend down and suggests that they go out to eat together, as he thinks this is the best way to solve their problems. In the cafeteria, Jimmy's friends notice that a girl named Adrian often looks at him, who is smart and cute, even though she wears dark gothic clothes. But Miles approaches them again. This time, Jimmy is no longer silent and says that he owes him nothing. However, when Miles is about to respond to this insolence, a stranger and his older brother, a real giant, stand up for the boy. Having met someone stronger than himself, Miles retreats away, but his joy was short-lived. On the way home, Miles and his friend catch up with Jimmy in the car. The teenager tries to defend himself, but now he is alone and not ready for a fight. The poor guy falls down from the first punch, and Miles beats him while he's lying there. An elderly man from the neighboring house sees this. He immediately intervenes and scares the bully away, despite his threats. After examining Jimmy's split eyebrow, the man invites him in to treat the wound and stop the bleeding. Jimmy again downplays the extent of the problem and wants to get home as soon as possible, but the old man manages to convince him. They go into the garage, where there are photos of a young man in the ring with boxing gloves on the walls. This is Clarence Jackson, nicknamed Action, a former professional heavyweight boxer. He knows how to stand up for himself. Jimmy gets hopeful and asks him to teach him how to box, but Action is already old, so he suggests another coach. At the same time, he is ready to take the boy under his wing and mentor him if his parents agree. Action takes Jimmy home to meet his family. However, the parents do not trust the stranger at first and are more concerned about their son's health. The very next day, Jimmy's family goes to Clarence to enlist his support. They go to the gym, where Clarence's old friend, a charismatic Mexican named Manny, trains boxers. When Manny sees who his old friend has brought him, he is not happy and doubts that this is a good idea. In the end, Manny agrees that Jimmy really needs help and takes the job. Before the first training session, Action warns the boy not to look for unnecessary problems and to use the skills he has learned only for self-defense. He also explains that excess weight should be lost, but it is not always a disadvantage in a fight. Some champions were heavier than their opponents, and this allowed them to deliver particularly powerful blows. Action personally drives Jimmy to the gym and watches the training sessions from the sidelines to share his invaluable experience if necessary. Together with his mentor, Jimmy thinks about what to do with Miles. Paying the bully is a bad idea because it will only make it worse. Since Jimmy is not yet very good at boxing, he has to come up with ways to postpone the conflict. Action advises him to trick Miles by promising him $200 instead of $100, but only in a month. Thus, the fight will become inevitable, which does not please Jimmy at all. The next morning, another problem is added to the list. The boy's entire body is sore from his workout. Action and Andy joke about Jimmy limping to school, not being used to such exertion. Meanwhile, Bobby can't wait for Jimmy to finally ask Adrian out. Miles suddenly shows up, lying to Jimmy about finding a job and promising the same $200. The arrangement allows them to postpone the new demands for at least a few weeks. At practice, Manny is pleased with Jimmy. The boy is trying hard, even though other children from less fortunate families could make better use of this chance. Action notices that the boy's enthusiasm has disappeared and asks what's wrong. Jimmy tries to avoid answering, but Action insists. Finally, Jimmy shares his doubts. He doesn't see any progress and doesn't believe in himself, fearing that after all his efforts, Miles will still be stronger. But Action does not scold the boy, realizing that he needs time and support. In the evening, Jimmy has another word with his father before his night shift. The father notices that his son looks exhausted and upset, and advises him not to take time away from the coach if he is not sure of his desire to train. However, the father regrets that he did not teach his son how to defend himself. The next morning, Miles is waiting for his friends at the school entrance again, reminding them of the agreement. To intimidate them, he threatens Andy and Bobby, and the latter is punched hard in the stomach. Upset, Bobby runs away with tears in his eyes and says that he sees no end to this humiliation. At that moment, Jimmy realizes that he cannot let his friends down. After school, he takes his bike and goes to practice, not waiting for Action. Jimmy is determined, and in the midst of training, he accidentally hits Manny in the jaw. Jimmy meets other athletes and trains hard. The days in the gym fly by. 2 weeks pass, and Miles demands the promised amount from the boy. Jimmy manages to stay confident and postpone it for another week. Andy notices a change in his friend's behavior and asks what's going on. Jimmy tells his surprised friend that he is practicing boxing under the guidance of a real professional. He even admits that he is ready to try to ask the girl out. Adrian, overhearing their conversation, suggests that they go to a party together at her friend's house. Jimmy is going on his first date. His parents are amazed. Their quiet and safe son has suddenly grown up. At the party, Jimmy suggests that Adrian go outside for some fresh air. She notices that the boy has started eating better and has lost weight. A spark flashes between them, but their first kiss is interrupted by one of Miles's friends. Jimmy is angry, but this time he decides to send the impudent man away. The rest of the evening goes well, and a happy Jimmy returns home. Action also learns something new from Jimmy. For example, how to use a cell phone. The boy calls and this time asks for a ride to the gym with his girlfriend. It comes as a pleasant surprise to Adrian when she finds out that Jimmy is into boxing. She thought he was just losing weight by running on a treadmill. At the gym, Manny introduces Adrian to Rosie, a female boxer who fights on a par with the men. In sparring, Rosie easily knocks out her opponent. This makes a strong impression on Adrian, and she thinks about taking up boxing like Jimmy. The boy starts going to the gym even on weekends. Manny jokingly scares him by sparring with a powerful opponent. One day, Action walks into the gym, but this time he's wearing the fancy suit he usually wears to church. The old boxers laugh as they watch the boy's success. They begin to remember their youth. Manny invites another friend of his who teaches Jimmy mixed martial arts techniques. The training includes not only punching, but also elbow and knee techniques. After all, Jimmy's future opponent will most likely not follow the rules of the ring. The day comes when Miles demands the promised money. He declares that he will not wait any longer. An older boy named Vinny is watching the conflict between the teenagers from the outside. He supports Jimmy and promises to help if necessary. However, Miles's friends find out that Jimmy has deceived him and is not going to pay. Then the bullies turn to their friend, a fighter nicknamed Glassjaw, to beat Jimmy up for them. Jimmy tells Adrian about the situation, and the girl starts to worry. She's afraid that because too many people know about the fight, something might go wrong. Manny reassures her, reminding her that Jimmy is not alone now, and his friends will help him in the right moment. Fortunately, Vinny quickly learns of Miles's plans to act dishonestly. He turns to his friends, the Italian Mafia, who intercept Glassjaw near the school and hold him in their car. Now Miles has no choice but to fight himself. He goes out to fight Jimmy. Jimmy falls down from the first quick punch, but his endurance training has not been in vain. He gets up and remembers everything he was taught. He makes his opponent miss, and then counterattacks. Soon, Miles falls to the ground, unable to withstand the humiliation. In desperation, Miles calls on his friends to intervene, and the three boys rush Jimmy. But this time, Andy and Bobby do not stand aside. Bobby has a great left hook, and Jimmy lands a few more accurate punches. He demands that Miles leave not only him and his friends alone, but also all those who cannot defend themselves. The moment Jimmy has been waiting for has finally arrived. All his efforts were not in vain, but that's not all. The video of the fight goes viral on social media and even makes the news. Jimmy becomes an example for many who face ridicule, and his story inspires people around the world. His parents, although worried about their son, are very proud of him, and Jimmy and his friends can finally go to school with their heads held high.